thank you. Thank you guys for joining. As Paul pointed out, Twitter, Elon recently almost backed out of his Twitter buyout for because of all the fake accounts. But this is something that affects all brands. It affects social medias. A lot of them depend on A2P, SMS. So this is a big problem for everyone on the value chain. It hurts everyone except for the fraudsters. So I think to sort of set the scene, we have John from Infobip is gonna give a short presentation.
Okay, so we're still talking about voice, SMS, 2G world. So nice to meet you. And I'm going to talk about how we as an ecosystem can address this issue around fake accounts. No. Okay. So I'm going to talk first about, I know we had a session this morning and there was use of the word artificial traffic generation. I've called it AIT here, but I'm going to talk a bit about the background to AIT. And it's somewhat of a primer or a tutorial, but it's just to give the background. And we can discuss then later. So artificial traffic, there's many forms of it. You know, some years ago, we had this, what I called person-to-person artificial traffic, or mobile-originated artificial traffic. This is on the SMS channel. And this is normally, the dominant use case would be malware on a device, on a smartphone device, and particularly on Android devices. What happens? You can see here down the bottom, the device is infected. And it's got permissions. The malware app's got permissions to write SMS, send SMS, and it's sending it to high-cost destinations. Those destinations, there's money flown, as the previous speaker says, where there is money, there is fraud. And who is impacted by this? It's first of all the subscriber. He's paid for the malware itself has generated these international SMSs, and his carrier or MNO, as the originating carrier, is paying termination fees on the international destinations. He's also impacted in the financial sense. So that's fraud. Has been around years. It's easy enough to detect. Most firewalls can eliminate that today. What we really want to talk about here, associated with fake accounts, is the A2P, what I call A2P artificial traffic. So I'm using my own term here. Again, we talk about the brands, you know, the Twitters, the Googles, the Facebooks, you know, they're doing a lot of social media, a lot of sign up. And the fraudsters are operating bots to sign up fake accounts. This is well known. So what happens then? The social media company, OTT company, will generate, will verify the number, the mobile number, and will generate an A2P SMS. And this will flow through the ecosystem as it does today, down into the terminating MNO, so that the mobile network operator that is taught to own the B number or the signed up number on the bot. The fraudster somehow began, there's money in the chain because A2P SMS, there's a revenue here. It's a massive revenue for our industry. And again, the fraudsters have inserted themselves into this money flow. How they either collect it from their bad actors in the ecosystem or somehow are collecting it out of the terminating MNO. Who is impacted here? It's a different case. It's not the subscriber now. It's now the brands. The brands are impacted. So the brands are paying this cost, unnecessary cost, for artificial accounts or fake accounts. And I mentioned here sometimes the subscriber, because sometimes this traffic, as I explain later, is terminating unsolicited onto, if if the bot is choosing random numbers, it could happen to be your number, and you could get an unsolicited OTP. Let's look at how this traffic is terminated. There is we have seen 3 or 4 from our own analysis. It's terminated onto numbers, which are chosen by the bot. One case we've seen sort of click farms, sim farms, being operated by the fraudster. So that's both operating the bot itself, as well as the termination side of things. Also, there's a thing called virtual numbers in the industry. They're well known, VLNs. They're numbers usually that were allocated by MNOs, usually for the purposes of application messaging. So you can get a global number. So a short code only has a reach inside the country. But if you want to have an application with global reach, you would allocate global long numbers. And they're worldwide reachable. But there's no SIM cards associated with those numbers. They're just numbers that are used. And finally, as I mentioned, sometimes you can generate the traffic to terminate onto random numbers, and they might involve subscribers. We've also another type of termination, and it's known as short stopping or trashing, or there's various different terms used. Again, what's happening here is that the bad actor in the ecosystem has advertised a lower rate than the terminating MNO. So if you can see here, there's a 7 cent rate for termination in the destination MNO, but the bad actor is advertising a lower rate. Because of that, it's like the stock market; it will attract the traffic. That traffic will be artificial traffic plus real traffic, because obviously these brands are actually getting real subscribers at the same time. The artificial traffic is trashed or terminated there and then. It's not forwarded. And the real traffic is forwarded to the MNO. But there's enough profit there to cover the losses, because obviously on the final leg, there's a loss for the bad actor. What are the challenges? What we see, there is an increase in costs that are damaging our industry. Our research, we have done research on a few MNOs where we see this. We've seen up to 25% of traffic that is potentially artificial. Now, we can talk about, obviously, the brands themselves can take actions. And they do a lot on bot detection. But some of the things they can do can be quite cumbersome. So like a CAPTCHA for an end user doing a sign up is quite challenging, and it may disturb the customer experience. So there is challenges in that for the social media companies. What we really want to focus the discussion here on later is what we as an ecosystem can do while keeping the simplicity of the number verification with SMS that is there today. Just how it's detected, there is, how does an MNO become aware of it, or how does participants in the industry become aware of it? Brands do themselves complain, and we have received complaints from brands about this type of traffic. Subscribers have been known to complain because they're receiving unsolicited OTPs. And there's a level of traffic analysis that we can do in our infrastructure to detect this type of traffic. It's not following normal trends as such. Mitigation, there's many things we can do. Obviously, traffic analysis, the better intelligence, we're building our own data systems to look and detect this traffic is certainly one thing as an industry we can do. There's a lot of talks earlier on about number validation or number reputation. We see that as part of the solution. So the idea that a number somehow has a reputation associated with it, and that's available to the industry through how our ecosystem actually interacts with each other, so maybe through APIs. We in Infobip are launching a product on number reputation. But what's our main concern here is the impact on the trust of the channel. So this is the main concern, and we think this MEF is an important neutral industry player, and we think the industry needs to come together and sort this out. Just to talk about some observed cases, just very briefly, we had one country in the Middle East. Again, based on traffic analysis, we saw an additional 2 million SMS over a 30-day period on one brand. And it was a brand that actually reported this to ourselves. We undertook investigation, and we saw all the suspicious numbers, and it's basically based on trend analysis and number reputation. Another case in Asia, this was unusual in the sense that this is where we were present as a firewall. So I myself come from a company before Infobip was called Anam. So this is where the Anam firewall is present. And we've seen normally traffic should trend. There's a constant growth in the market. So what we was seeing with using the firewall data, we saw really high spikes start to form in certain months, which was not, you might understand Black Friday, there's a spike of traffic, but it wasn't related to any specific festive events. So again, when we undertook this analysis, and it basically was on the B number range, we could see that the B numbers were receiving multiple from certain small set of brands. The interesting thing is when this MNO switched out, he had an exclusive arrangement with an A2P partner, and he switched it out, this artificial traffic went away. So when the chain changed towards this MNO, the artificial traffic actually disappeared. So this is an interesting observation. Okay, so I hope I've kind of given you a background to the topic, why it's important for social media accounts, how we want to help them address their issues, as Elon Musk has. We're here to help them.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Okay. So take a seat, please. So you don't have to listen to just two Irish lads talking. We have some other gentlemen coming. So Allister, Fraser from EE, come on up. Perfect. And then we have Vimal from JT. And then Rajiv is joining us online, I believe. He should be on the screen now. Is he here? I like that we have an empty chair for Rajiv.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, Ross.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not sure if Rajiv is joining us or not, but we'll get started. Hopefully he drops in. He's here? Okay, apparently he's here. So starting off, so Allister, regarding the perspective of your organization, how big do you believe the problem of fake accounts to be?
Well, I mean, I was looking at the Cineverse website the other day, and they said if you look at a database of mobile numbers, they'd expect at least 35% to be inaccurate.
Oh, okay. Do you see the same, Vimal?
I haven't looked at the report, but I think the problem is bigger than we as an industry give it credit for. Even if you just looked at it, if you took the smallest number and you halved that, it's still $1 billion fraud industry. So you can see why people would want to get into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and Rajiv, we have you now on the screen. Hello, Rajiv.
Yeah, hey, Ross, how are you? You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, for me, like Vimal said, it's a big industry, and definitely the report from Infobip shows like 25% of the volumes, they are fraudulent, and it is growing, and it has grown a lot in the last year. And definitely we are taking steps and so that we can curb this problem and nail it in the bud.
Absolutely. And Rajiv, staying with you, what do you believe are the challenges for the HCP ecosystem in first detecting this artificial traffic and secondly eliminating it?
Yeah, so what I see is like detecting is a big challenge because the industry is getting smarter. Like earlier, what I see was like it was being in a number of series. Like the fraudsters, they used to have those series, and it was easier to detect them and block them. But now, like what we saw in the look in the normal scenarios as well, it is having a different live numbers, and definitely those numbers are changing rapidly. So it becomes more difficult to see like if this is a fraudulent traffic or not. And those bots, and they are also getting smarter, and they try to have that similar that human behavior, and so that it becomes difficult for the OTTs also, although they have a much better systems. But still, like they're getting smarter, and it becomes more difficult for those OTTs to find it out, like whether this was fraudulent traffic or whether this was a generated traffic or not. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Vimal, do you see the same?
So to me, like the first thing, I think we all know that this exists in our industry, and it's kind of like I relate it to being an alcoholic. The first step is you have to acknowledge the problem. Only once you acknowledge the problem and the size of the problem can you deal with the problem. And it's so I know firewall is your first line of defense, but you need more than a firewall, as we found out today. So you need, like fraud protection services on top of it. You need to have like lookup services, number intelligence, and you've got to use AI and machine learning and technologies to put you one step ahead of these fraudsters who are very dynamic. They're very maverick in their movements, and for an MNO to be able to move at that speed is a problem that we face.
Yeah. I guess that ties into my next question. How does like an organization like MEF kind of help out with this problem? You said about admitting the problem, but do you think there's something that a sort of trade body can do?
I'd love to put it on just one trade body, but like the MEF, definitely, GSMA, GLF, you have country-specific organizations such as Ofcom. They and going back to the whole alcoholic sort of scenario, the alcoholics, they're one step ahead of us. They have Alcoholics Anonymous, and they have this program that helps them. They have a guidebook that says, this is what you need to do to alleviate this problem. This is what we've done. These are our experiences. These are our successes. This is how you can have a good life. And if we as an industry don't protect our industry, we're going to find our revenues and our business going in the wrong direction.
And that's when regulators step in. Yeah. John, how do you see MEF kind of playing into this problem or similar organizations?
I think MEF is well positioned because, north of the MNO, we have all all the players are members of MEF, and it's closer to the enterprise. So I think MEF is well positioned, certainly on the awareness side. I probably beyond the code of conduct, I can't see how you can define, like solutions are defined elsewhere, as I've seen in the industry, more in the GSMA or whoever. But maybe MEF can help on the awareness, on the, maybe looking at the code of conduct, helping us to sign up to good practices in the industry.
Yeah. And Allister, from your perspective, do you agree or?
Yeah, no, definitely I agree. So with regards to speaking to some of the guys at MEF, with regards to fake accounts, it's very well known that it's a massive problem. One of the problems is that look, just to just to sort of explain a bit about what I'm doing. So I'm working with EE. I work for EE. I have counterparts working for Vodafone, O2, Virgin Media, and 3 in the UK. Together, we have millions and millions of subscribers. We understand our customers, but the crucial thing is that we're sitting on a load of verified data. We've got verified data on millions and millions of customers. So, and what I'm doing is I'm working in the digital identity space. So whereas Google might have loads and loads of data, it's unverified data. I mean, we were just saying how Twitter has like over 11 million, fake accounts. Well, people have numerous Google accounts, right? And so what the mobile network operators bring to the table in this day and age where digital identification is crucial is that we can share with companies our customers' information in order to benefit them, in order to help prevent them from becoming victims of fraud. And if you've been here since this morning, you'll have heard guys like Tim Ward and Jason Lunn refer to things like SIM swap information. But the mobile network operators working collectively can share all kinds of information. So we can share when the SIM was swapped. We can share if the number has been forwarded. We've got massive CRM databases. So if you are onboarding customers and you can't tell the difference between a fraudster, if you don't know if this is a synthetic ID or, like Jason Lund said, just a simple mistake, you can pass that phone number to us. I mean, who better to verify a number than the mobile network operators, right? So you can pass us a number and you can pass us like John Smith, an address, a date of birth. We'll look into our CRM database and we'll confirm it or deny it. Yeah, the name matches, the address matches, the date of birth matches. Yes, it's a pay-as-you-go account, or it's a pay monthly, or it's a business number, because again, those are all risk things. And then if it all matches, then we've got tenure APIs too. So how long have you known this customer? Have you known them for a day? Or have you known them for 3 months or 6 months or a year or 18 months? And then we've got number recycle APIs, right? So again, in one of the earlier talks, they were talking about the US, where you can get fined huge amounts of money from sending a text message, an unsolicited text message, where you could ask EE, when was this number before? I haven't interacted with this number for some time. EE, here's the phone number. When was it last? When did you last interact? Or when was this number last recycled? And if it was recycled like 7 months ago, you need to wipe it from your database because it could have easily been reissued to another user. So from EE's perspective, we're all about sitting on lots of verified information, real-time information, and sharing that with companies in order to help them overcome some of the problems that Twitter are having, and all companies really are having.
Yeah, and do you have something to say, John?
Yeah, no, we really believe that's the how the MNO can help. Because you asked me how the MEF can help, but the MNO I think has with the data you have, and you have a huge amount of data on numbers, on the traffic on those numbers, and you have a lot of information where you can say that that number is actually attached to a real person rather than some sort of unallocated number, or maybe even in your range, but you certainly have that data. And if you can make that available to the ecosystem players, I'm sure we get a long way to sorting out this problem.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, Tim Ward was saying, one of the basic questions, is this a number? But we can say, yes, this is a number, and this is John's number. And this number is associated with somebody that lives at this address. And some of the banks, right, like Barclays Bank, are quite open about it. They're saying, well, we're sending one-time passwords, and then the fraudsters are just phoning up the victims and saying, well, this is John calling from Barclays. What's the PIN code that we've just sent you? And the poor victims on the spot reads out the PIN code, and that's it. Gets all this money stolen. So what we can do for companies like Barclays too is Barclays can pass us a mobile phone number and say, hey, EE, we know John's number. Is this the same number that's in this mobile web session or mobile app session? And we say yes. So basically what we're doing is we're using our network, which is secure, in order to prove possession rather than sending a one-time password, which could be intercepted by a fraudster. So, there's things like that where we can just leverage the security of the network to do it. Make it, mobile identity. So we're referring it to, as number verified by everyone, mobile auth, silent authentication. But we can do things like that in the background, which not only makes things more secure, but it also improves customer experience.
Yeah, Definitely. Vimal, I'd love your take on that. And also, just to kind of further that question, do you think, from your perspective, is there room for a certain amount of intelligence sharing between operators and other people in the ecosystem?
I think it'd be great if we shared information. I think us as an industry would benefit. But how it happens and if it happens, who governs it, who looks after it, those are some of the questions and challenges that would need to be addressed. I'm sure there'll be certain businesses that would be affected if this was made available to everybody. And that doesn't mean that it shouldn't happen. And, as we're saying here, the more data we have, the more data we analyze to determine whether something is real or fake, the more accurate we can be. And there are many different layers, but also it's like, how far do you go before it becomes, a cost rather than a benefit? So that's something that you need to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. Rajiv, I could give you a new question. So, the beneficiaries of AIT are kind of relying on certain money flows to profit from this. Clearly, is there a way to mitigate this by kind of changing the money flow?
Yeah, definitely. That's one way of mitigating it. And like those fraudsters, they are making money because like they short stop that message and it doesn't get actually delivered to those MNOs. So if we change that the flow of that money, so it will help us, and the fraudsters, they will not be able to get those money back, and there is no point in working out when they are not getting that money.
Absolutely. And Rajiv, what action can MNOs take today to kind of help this problem?
See, MNOs, it depends upon what is the network they have and how they can detect those fraud calls, because it is most of those OTTs which are able to detect, and the Facebook and the Googles, they have those anti-fraud systems wherein they can detect it, and they can see like, okay, this seems to be a fraud message, or this seems to be AIT message, and they have to stop it there itself, building more strong anti-fraud systems, so that it doesn't go from there itself. And once it's blocks, so there's no money to pay, because that is the origin where, if you see from what John has shown his presentations as well, like when we start, it goes from those OTTs. They are the actual loser, because they have to pay for those all artificially generated message where it's not actually generated from those users. So if we nail it from there itself, so then it can be mitigated very easily.
Absolutely. And I'll ask you one more question, and I'd love to hear the other guys' take on this. Are we getting to a stage where you think regulatory action is impending? Are we already arriving to this point?
Yeah, it is like more regulatory again. Yes, so they need to take those actions, and those MNOs, I'll say now, when those firewalls are getting deployed, and if you see the trend, so MNOs, they are demanding more and more revenue commitments. So seeing that revenue trends and seeing the increase in the industry, so regulations also have to come in place, like, okay, at what type of deals have been done with the operators and the firewall providers, so that there is no jump, or there is no increase in the volume just because of this artificially generated traffic. So it should be on those actual volumes they have, and the actual deals should be signed. So the regulators, they have to come up to those operators.
Vimal, do you agree?
Yes, I do agree with a lot of things, but there's this thing called KYC, which everyone's aware of, where we actually, we want to know who our customer is, and maybe something like a KYP, where we actually know who our partners are, who we're working with, what we're doing, trying to manage the sort of liability of any traffic that we're taking, something like that. Would help. At JT, we've created a product called JT Protect, which is in my opinion, more than a firewall. It uses fraud protection services, like Allister was saying, on top. It uses number intelligence, uses data that's available to us to actually protect our network, to protect our customers, who are the brands, but more so to protect the subscribers. I believe as an MNO, you have a moral obligation, a duty of care towards your subscribers. And I think as an operator, you should do whatever is in your power to protect them.
Allister, do you have anything to add there? Or?
Yeah, well, other than just the mobile network operators are, in the area that I'm in, we're working together in order to build APIs to share information with the sole purpose of protecting our customers.
Yep. And John, from the CPaaS perspective?
Yeah, I think the regulatory authorities, in my mind, are primarily concerned with protecting the consumer. Enterprise, I'm not so sure there is much of from a regulatory point of view, if enterprises as an entity to be protected is in their domain. Well, maybe you guys, your operators, you know better. I see what you're doing in UK, maybe the self-regulation among the MNOs probably is the path to go on the regulatory side. I'm not sure if Ofcom would get involved in this issue or if it's come to their attention. Maybe you know.
Not sure about that. Even Ofcom, that would just be specific to this one country. You see, It doesn't really solve the problem or the issue. This is a global problem. Yes. And also, we're talking about, fake accounts, OTP, fake OTP passwords. That's the relationship we have with the OTT players at the moment. If Facebook or Meta actually, do become a big player in the metaverse, our relationship with them will be even stronger. And so, we need to start building and nourishing those relationships now so that we do have trust and we can protect not the MNO, but also the brands that we're working with and ultimately the subscriber.
Yeah. That kind of leads on to another point I have, which is what is the role of brand education? Do we have, as an ecosystem, do we need to educate the brands to flush out these bad actors, or could that almost have a side effect of them getting a bit freaked out? I'd love your take on that, or anyone else.
I mean, mine is straightforward. As I say, I think you should know your partners. I think you don't have to ask too many questions to find out who is doing what. And then if you still choose to work with that person, then that's a conscious decision you're making. Please don't. I know people that have been burnt and have lost a lot of money, even though they've done like a D&B check on a company, and they've found themselves, millions out of pocket. That's not KYP. You should know who you're doing business with, know, how trustworthy they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Rajiv, what do you make of that?
So yeah, I agree with Vimal. It's along with the brands education, we should be more on know your partners. So what are they trying to do, and how they are trying to exploit the reputation of that brand. So that is more important. So we should see who is doing what. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Allister, do you have anything to add there?
I guess, obviously, from our perspective, we would like the fact that we're sharing this information in order to protect consumers to be widely known. And so the mobile network operators all partner up with companies like Infobip, and then we rely on Infobip to leverage their relationships with the brands in order to share their capabilities of helping to validate numbers and what have you.
John, I was going to ask you, so this type of fraud, if we could categorize it, in A being extremely serious, B being kind of a serious problem, and C being not much of a problem, where would you rank this?
A minus. I think it's not for the brands and the trust of the channel. As I said in my presentation, I think this is a great channel. This SMS A2P channel. It's a great channel. It's under pressure, and I think things like this is not good for it. As I said, we need to preserve this channel. It's a great business for for MNOs, for CPaaS players, and enterprises. It's ubiquitous. It goes all over the world. We talked about RCS earlier, but the fact is SMS is everywhere. And this protection needs to be in place.
Yeah. How do you see that? What is the most damaging aspect? Is it the sort of brand damage, or is it more the monetary?
The trusted channel.
Channel,
yeah. So brands are well aware of it. They're looking to us for solutions. So they're aware of the number of fake accounts. It's well known, I think, for most brands at this stage. And for example, we in Infobip are launching a product to help the brands to be able to detect what's fake and what's real.
And I'd love to hear from the. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm looking forward to getting some data from EE.
I posed the same question to you in terms of the brand damage or the monetary loss. Which do you see as the more egregious?
Well, I mean, I'm not as exposed to this area as like these gentlemen. From the area that I'm in, though, it would be largely brand damage. And I guess, all day we've spoken about the value of SMS and how it's kind of the workhorse in terms of communication. It would be a shame to not capitalize on that and let it diminish because we don't sort of resolve these problems.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'll quickly ask you the same question.
So for the brands, they've been dealing with fake accounts for a long time, longer than we have, because Facebook, people will create Facebook accounts to sort of build up followers for people, and that's been going on for years. And Facebook and Twitter and all the other OTTs will regularly close down accounts that they believe to be fake. So I think the brands may be more experienced in this area of fake accounts than we are. We're looking at it because they've now brought the SMS into the game. So for me, the damage is to our industry. I think it's to all of us. If we lose the brands and we lose that trust of the brands, I think it'll have a detrimental effect on the whole industry.
Absolutely. I'm sure you agree with that, Rajiv.
Yeah, I agree, Ross. And if I see it's for both, like brand damage and the monetary loss as well. Like Vimal said, those the Facebook and the Googles, they already have those fake accounts, and the people they use to create a lot of problems for the subscribers using those fake accounts. But now the SMS part coming into that, and those OTTs, they have to pay for those monetary values as well. And the most important is like killing of the SMS industry. SMS is a very trustable channel. Like still people, when they go for alternative, we discussed in the previous channel about the flash call and the other things. Still people are more comfortable with SMS. They are still expecting, like we do have that solution for flash call and it's blocking. But when we go to those enterprises, they say like, okay, it's our customer behavior or the customer experience, which we don't want to change. So SMS is still they expect when they want to verify when you're doing any transaction or when you're going anywhere for any confidential thing. So we still expect an SMS to be there so that we can verify ourselves. So we don't want to kill that SMS industry, which is creating a trust and making the world more secure for those transactions and other things.
Yeah. So does anyone have any questions? I think Dawood. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi there, this is a question for Allister.
So EE, Vodafone, O2, Virgin Media, and 3 all work together and have done for the last 5 years. So I'm speaking to the guys at O2, Telefonica all the time, Vodafone all the time, 3 all the time. And what we'll do is we'll build an API like EE built an age eligibility API. Because again, we've got all this verified information. We know exactly how old you are. So if somebody wants to sell vaping products or blades or something like that online, they can ask EE, hey, is this phone number associated with somebody who's 18 or over? And we'll say yes or no. And then I will share with the other MNOs once I've spent the money, speccing it out, having it built, having it all okayed by the privacy lawyers and things like that. If there's a market for it, if companies want to use it and do use it, then I share that with the other mobile network operators and they'll build the same thing. Equally, if O2 will build or will call me up and say, hey, we're planning on building this API. If we built it and we proved it, would you build it? If we say no, we would never build it, then they won't build it. Because totally agree with you. Like EE is about 32% of the market. It's got to be cross-network, right, for it to scale. And so that's why the mobile network operators in the UK all work together. Our APIs cover some of the MVNOs, like BT Mobile. You know, Telefonica, their APIs cover some of their MVNOs too, but not all the MVNOs are covered. But the main network operators are. And then operators like Vodafone and 3 that are international, cover many markets. Their APIs will cover many markets as well.
Do you think that there's a role here for the regulator? And we're kind of shying away from the regulatory involvement in general, but it really, really needs to be as ubiquitous as SMS, so that if there is a mobile number, there has to be all of this other data associated with it. So it doesn't matter whether you're a 1,000 subscriber MVNO, you still have to maintain that kind of database. So have you discussed that maybe even at regulatory level with Ofcom, so that everybody who has some kind of license must provide it?
No. What I can say is that it costs a lot of money to producing these APIs. So a very small MVNO wouldn't be able to do it, because there's a lot of cost, a lot of time, a lot of resource. But we're all behind regulation. You know, I mean, we were just saying earlier, age verification regulation. We were expecting that to come out a few years ago, and we're still waiting. We're still waiting for it. But we've built the API, so when the regulation comes about, we've got the API for companies to potentially use. And with strong customer authentication, when that kind of came into force, again, the amount of traffic that we saw obviously increased. So we were all for that. We were all for that. So yeah, we are behind the regulation.
I somewhat kind of disagree in terms of, like, a small network operator would not be able to justify it. And that's simply because it's a monetization technique as well. So, you know, if you are providing that data, that they will get reimbursed for it in some shape or form. You know, I know it may only be 20 cent or 50 cent a pop, but it's still a revenue generation for that, you know, mobile network. And ultimately the value is, once everybody is doing the exact same thing, then you can actually use it ubiquitously across, you know, the country. So that it might be worth examining.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Well, I think we have to wrap it up there, folks. Thank you so much. As I said, Infobip, or I didn't actually say it, Infobip sponsored this session, so thank you, Infobip, and thank you for my operators for joining. Stick around, folks, for one last session. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.